seem to be live. Let's see if the sound is good. Please let me know. And if the sound is good, we had a little bit of low sound yesterday. Some people were saying if it is, I will up the sound. And I can hear it, so I'm going to take these headphones off. Please tell me in the comments if the sound is good. And if it is, we're going to get right on started. I don't have a sound engineer here. In fact, I'm alone in my office. Even my dog Barney's outside right now. So a lot of interesting things to talk about today. And so let's get it started. And I'm just waiting to see if anybody wants to comment on the sound. And if so, then we are going to rock and roll. So many interesting things right now with World War virus going on, and more than anybody can track at this point. A lot of very interesting things to talk about. All right, Todd saying sounds better today. Jennifer saying sounds great. John Allen, hello from Scotland, UK. And Lori Philman, hi, good, you're new here. Welcome, Lori. And Greg Wilson, sound is good. Eric Hunt, sound is good. Oh, a lot of comments coming now. Good to go. Kevin saying, all right, let's get rolling. Deuce 4, Joe Van Vranken. All right, man. I was looking for a Deuce 4, something to put up here, man. I want to put something up from Deuce 4. You know, I took this photo. I put it behind me now because I'm trying to get the geometry sorted out in my room here. Life's a dance. You learn as you go, you know, and this podcast stuff is new to me. But I took this before I came to Deuce 4. I was down in Bakuba in Diyala province, and then I came to you guys after I was down there. That was quite a place itself. And then I came to you guys. Hello, Dave Bowie. Sound is fine. YouTube feed is good. All right. YouTube has better feed, by the way, than Facebook. So if you want to go over to my YouTube, the feed is definitely better. And then you can hit the subscribe button, the bell on YouTube, and then get bell alerts when I go. So let's get going. And okay. Cecilia Thompson, hello. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Joe Van Vranken, PM me and we'll see if we can hook you up. Hey, just in case I forget to PM you, this could be a substantial podcast here. Please do PM me, man. I would love to put up something from Deuce 4. You know, I got like, how many photos do I have? 150,000 or so. I sent something like that from Deuce 4. Is it that many? It's a lot. Was it that many? No, maybe 20. I don't remember. It was a lot. I sent them to Mary Prophet, and so she has them, and also, yeah. So I was like, just in case something happens to me and like I get killed off in one of these things I do, I wanted to make sure that Deuce 4 has access to all my photos. So I gave them all to Mary Prophet without caveat too. I was just like, you know, if something happens to me, these go to Deuce 4, and so so those photos that I took of Deuce 4, they will not be lost. And also I gave them to a couple of other people that are closely related to Deuce 4. And so there's like 4 copies. I've got one, Mary's got one, and then 2 other folks got others. And so that way there's your archival historical record through my camera will be preserved, and Mary Prophet is your first line of defense. So let's get started. Wait, what is Anchors Away saying in Netherlands? Let me see here. And this comment is too small for me to read. Hold on. Actually, I'm still learning how to do this this new podcasting software and hardware, so please bear with me. Okay. Okay, hold on. Here we go. Netherlands, one province, a self-isolation is asked by the authorities. This is from Netherlands. Coughing, elevated temperature, sneezing, stay home, don't go out after. Yeah, man, it's spreading all over the world. I mean, we're getting to the point now, for instance, in the United States or Italy or wherever, here in Thailand, where it's almost, we've reached the point where talking about individual cases is no longer the relevant point. It's like talking about lightning strikes in a massive storm. Like there was another lightning strike. There was another lightning strike. You know, at some point it's just like lightning strikes, it's on. And we've reached that point. We've reached the point where tracking individual cases is no longer of major relevance unless they are directly related to you or your business or something like that. For instance, if you're office worker gets sick, obviously that is of high direct relevance to you. Drink of water here, please. And so one of my we'll talk about quite a few things here that are important. One of my new lines of defense is to make sure I get exactly as much sleep as I need when possible. And so, like, I've cut down on my coffee. I'm drinking coffee now because I only woke up a few hours ago to work and to study more and whatnot. But now I'm only drinking a limited amount of coffee per day because sleep is one of your first lines of defense. Of course, social separation is our first line of defense. At this point, containment is out. We're not going to contain this. It's anybody that's talking about containment at this point is behind the curve. At this point, we're down to mitigation. We're down to damage control. And so one of the ways to bolster our own immunity, and most of us are going to get it. It looks like most of us at some point are going to get this. That's the way the infectious disease experts are. I should be looking at the camera. Are talking about this now. And here, and I will. Let's see. Right. So the infectious disease experts are are very clear that it looks like most of the people in the world at some point are going to get this. We're in the first wave right now, and of those people who get it, they still don't know how many are likely to die. It could be 1%, could be 2%. It's unclear. You can read different things, different numbers. But if it is even 1%, then that means millions and millions of people are going to die. We literally are at a stage, the way it's looking now, more people could literally die from this disease than World War II. And that's not like an outlier statistic. That's kind of mid-range statistic, like literally more people could die from this disease than died from World War II. So think about that for a minute. And that's only one aspect of it. The deaths from this disease directly are only one aspect. Then the other aspects are, of course, economic and political. For instance, what about Boeing up in Seattle, or what about whatever company that you or somebody else works for, and suddenly somebody in the office has it and the office is quarantined. This is not a maybe. This is already starting to happen, and it's going to explode. It's going to go right through the roof. This is exponential. We're already on the we're going vertical right now on the exponential curve. Within just a couple of months, there'll be so many millions of people have it that, again, now we are already at pandemic. Meanwhile, World Health Organization is still reticent and reluctant because, they're puppets of the Chinese Communist Party. They clearly are puppets of the Chinese Communist Party. They are reluctant to even call it a pandemic. This is how far behind some of our people are. And by the way, we're going to get to a lot of questions later. So, but not just at the moment. Hey, Ward, let's see, but I am going to mention a few here. Coming and go. Ward is a childhood friend. We grew up together. We knew each other when we were like 9 and 10 years old. According to a pilot I personally know, Ward is saying, planes are empty. United Airlines is sending many pilots home for the month. Also, nothing different and is being done to clean aircraft between domestic flights. Yeah. And already some of the infectious disease experts are saying that this can be persistent, be for 7 days or for 9 days or for 14 days. That's still unclear, but we know it can be persistent for more than a few hours, according to basically everybody. And so also, I think Lufthansa may have, I think they've already cut about half their flights. They're just one. Remember, there's many ways that flights can be stopped. They can be stopped by passengers just not going. For instance, I'm not flying anywhere that's not really very important. And you know me, I'll go off to combat in a second. I'll go face to face with this virus. I've got, all my, gear and all that stuff. I'm probably going to get it just like most of us are going to get it. And I'm not afraid of it. At the same time, I'm not going to just tempt fate and walk through the minefield that's clearly marked. And I don't want to leave a lot of my family and friends behind here because they're going to need me to help. Although I've outfitted everybody and trained everybody up as much as possible, chances are some of us are going to get sick. It's the same with my family and friends in the United States and in Japan and other places. Some of us are simply going to get sick and some of us are going to die. And so we'll see how this all pans out. Let's talk about anti-maskers. You may have seen that video that I just put up. with Dr. Jen Ashton she's the chief medical correspondent at ABC. Did you see that video I put on Facebook? Unbelievable. She's a surgeon, right? Dr. Jen Ashton. She's like Tokyo Rose for the virus. She's like a spokesperson for the virus. She's out there saying, just watch the video and you can see her saying that, don't use masks. The masks are not going to be helpful and that we need them as medical. Seriously, she's doing a disservice not only to herself. She cannot recover from this. She cannot recover her reputation for lying about this to millions of people on ABC and to the world all over, not just Americans. And she represents her profession as two professions, one as a journalist and two as a surgeon, as a medical professional. If somebody is saying, if a medical professional like the Surgeon General, Dr. Doogie Howser Jerome Adams, he's our U.S. Surgeon General. Have you seen Doogie Howser there, Dr. Jerome Adams, our Surgeon General, wearing his Navy hat? That hat's like way too big for his head. It looks like it's like he's wearing his father's hat, right? And it's unbelievable. So Dr. Doogie Howser Jerome Adams is out there telling the world on behalf of the United States, don't wear masks because masks they're not going to be helpful because, you can still get the disease and you just can't make up this stuff. This is what leads us into the longest war in history in Afghanistan. It's just bullshit coming from people that are in positions of trust. President Trump, whom I've supported over and over and over on border issues. For instance, I love what Brian Kolfage is doing down with his fundraiser and putting wall down on the southern border. This is hugely important to guard our own national integrity. And I like how President Trump has stood up to China on various issues such as trade and intellectual property. But when it comes to this disease, he's getting a failing grade at best. I mean, I just watched his town hall. Where was he? Anyway, he was out. President Trump was out shaking hands with people, all kinds of just like nothing's going on here. I keep saying President Trump could be put down by this virus. And I mean, really put down, like dead. I mean, he's out there. He's of that age group. There's one thing that can defeat President Trump in this next election, and that is really this virus. I don't know how Biden's going to beat him. Biden thinks he's running for the Senate. Biden is clearly got some sort of degenerative mental issues going on there, and that those things don't usually improve with time. And so, some people are so crazy to get rid of Trump that they will actually vote for somebody that appears to have some sort of degenerative mental issue that will have control of our nuclear weapons. In any case, President Trump is out here. Apparently, he's going to be going to the CDC soon if he's not there now. And now what's going to happen when somebody at CDC gets the disease and now CDC has to be in quarantine? What's going to happen when somebody, and it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of, is this going to happen? It's not a matter of our senators going to get this and bring it into the Senate. Our representatives going to get this and bring this all over Washington and back to their constituencies or from their constituencies. Is this going to happen? Yes, it's going to happen. When is it going to happen? Probably already happened. The Chinese delegation that came to sign the Phase 1 trade agreement on January 15th already knew that the Chinese Communist Party already knew that this was spreading person to person on January 15th when they met with our top government leaders in the White House and signed Phase 1 of the trade agreement. They literally came with what amounts to biological weapons, whether natural or man-made is unknown to me. But they came to our White House and signed off on this agreement. And now, of course, they're going to try to wiggle out of it using force majeure, to say that, we can't live up to this because of this disease. Well, guess what? You signed off on this Phase 1 agreement on January 15th when you knew very well that this was spreading person to person. I got no sympathy for the Chinese Communist Party or what befalls them due to their own evil stew that they've made and unleashed on the world. But so there we go. I mean, let me read something here. We've surpassed the point where tracking individual transmissions. The bottom line is, let's skip all past that. At this point, tracking all these individual transmissions, like cases in Colorado or cases in New York or cases in Florida. We're way beyond that, again, unless it's in your specific office, or your pilot has it on your airplane, and so now all the crew has to be grounded. Or let's say you're in a Trident submarine, or whatever kind of submarines we have out there today, or on an aircraft carrier. We have thousands of people on our aircraft carriers. There's the chances that somebody on, the Ronald Reagan or whatever doesn't have this and is spreading it right now, like they did on the Princess Love boat. It's unbelievable that what the implications this has, for instance, for our military. I saw the commander. I've been watching their Facebook. He'll do videos. I won't say his name. What's his name? Anyway, he seems like a responsible full bird colonel. But I saw him talking about 1 or so days ago, and he was giving a live feed on Facebook, on the unit Facebook over in Korea. And he was talking about, their bubble. He's talking about dependents, who are basically dependents are people that are either married to or children of service members, right? And he's talking about dependents breaking rules and coming on base and shopping in the commissary and doing different things that they shouldn't be doing against directives. And so, as the commander, he doesn't have the lawful right to give orders to dependents, right? But he does have the lawful right to keep people off of our military base, right? And he's talking about, dependents who have lied and come about where they've been, what they've been doing, and they're going off on base. And he's talking about, they're penetrating our protective bubble. First of all, there's no protective bubble. Our military is absolutely already has this disease for sure. It's going to get on the base. If people are breaking the rules, kick them out. They should not even give a second chance, period. There is no protective bubble. The only thing we can do is slow it down at this point. Slowing it down. I mean, chances are I'm going to get it. You're going to get it. Chances are the best things that we can do is slow it down so that we don't overwhelm our medical system. But in reality, whatever country you're in, and there's people here from all over the world, chances are every country in the world is going to be overwhelmed by this, including the United States. I mean, the chances that the United States hospital and clinical system is going to be overwhelmed are, I don't know to throw a number out, but let's say 90%. I mean, it's some high number. It's not like 10%. It's chances are we're going to get down to triage, as they already are in Korea, and look in Iran. Many of their top government leaders already have it. One of their top Iranian leaders already has died. What was his name? Hussein something. Anyway, he's dead. Hussein Shallah something. Anyway, he's dead. And so, this is the government that's been unleashing terrorism on the world for many years, and they are under heavy economic sanctions from the United States and others. And so they're even in a worse position to handle this because of those sanctions. And so this is where all their terrorism comes to roost, right? They're in a worse position than most countries that would be considered advanced because of their terrorism. This is where terrorism comes back and bites the hand that creates it. And sorry, you should have sympathy on yourselves, but you have created this terrorism, which created the sanctions, which now puts you in a worse position to defend against this virus, which no doubt will kill untold numbers of Iranians and others and Americans and Italians and everybody else. As you know by now, probably there's at least two major strains, the S and the L strain, which are, and there probably are more, which are going around the world. It seems that the L strain is the worst to have, but they're both pretty bad. The Hajj has been canceled, by the way, and that was canceled earlier. My guess, people keep asking me about the Olympics. I would say if you're planning on go to the Olympics, plan on buying books and staying home and reading, because I think that your chances of going to the Olympics are quite small. Pope Francis, is he still sick, or does he even have the virus? Unknown to me. He appears to be still sick, and the Vatican seems to be being cagey about it. Cagey in this context means they're covering up, that the Vatican itself is covering up. Let's just put it in plain terms. We got no time for bullshit, even if you are the Pope, especially if you're the Pope especially if you're the president or a prime minister or a king or a queen. There's just no time for it. And this is a wartime situation. There's literally more people may die from this virus and the related fallout. For instance, hospitals being quarantined so that people can't get their normal surgeries that they needed to get, which can be life and death surgeries. Pharmaceuticals being cut off from China, because most of our pharmaceuticals come from China, and they're active pharmaceutical ingredients, and also related issues from India on the pharmaceutical side. Anyway, I've already talked about some of these yesterday, and it keeps going and going and going. Let's see. So many things to talk about. And I would like to also take a bunch of questions. We need to, by the way, over in Hong Kong, which I'm covering closely still, I'm watching constantly my feeds, and I'm talking with people in Hong Kong constantly. Their cases seem to be lower than others because they're they've got the highest population density in the world there in the Mong Kok area, which is where I stayed for months covering the I stayed in various places, but I stayed in Mong Kok in particular for months. But the Hong Kongers reeling from the SARS experience are taking masks and whatnot very seriously, and social separation very seriously. Obviously, they're still going to get hit hard because we really can't stop the spread. The experts know from experience that you can slow it down, but everybody still that's going to get hit is still probably going to get hit. And so it's just, but we can slow down the peak and try to spread that out so that more people can get the treatment that they need. But it looks like that's going to be over the top. Anyway, how's the sound going, by the way, before I continue? Hopefully the sound is very good. The microphone, by the way, is a very good microphone. It's just a matter if I have my levels right. This is actually the microphone that Michael Jackson used. It's a Shure, what is it? Shure 7MB or something like that. But it's the one that Michael Jackson used. It's a very good microphone. It's the one that a lot of the top podcasters and whatnot use. It's a SM7B, right? But so if there's any problems with it, it's not the microphone. I just have to turn up any levels. So Helly is saying sound is crystal clear. Deb is sound is very good. Wordsmith audio is good on Facebook. Good to go. Okay. Sounds good to fly on spaceships, Eric says. Well, let's see. How long is this quarantine really, does it really need to be? All right, let's see. Paula Benny, Trump 2020. At this rate, I will definitely vote for Trump. I do not like the bullshit that he's spreading about this virus. But there's no way I'm going to vote for somebody that appears to have some form of dementia and who thinks that half of Americans have already shot themselves, and he thinks he's running for the Senate. Joe Biden actually said, I saw the video, he actually thinks that like 150 million Americans have shot themselves. What did he say? Since 2007, something like that. All righty. Uncle Joe, he's been saying and doing crazy stuff for years, and now it's increasing he mixed up his wife and his sister the other day. Did you see that video? You got to be really crazy to vote for somebody who literally thinks that he's like running for the Senate, and he says all these other crazy things, and he will have control of our nuclear arsenal. Just because somebody hates Trump that much. Actually, Trump has been doing a fine job on China. Other than this, on this virus, actually, I wish he were more hawkish on China, but he's made his own decisions, and he's a smart man, despite what people say. Okay, let's take some questions here. Video was buffering for a bit, so I missed some of what you said. Kate said, All right. Let's see. We'll I'll go up to the top here and start scrolling down. Wow, people from all over the world, Australia and Italy and Concord, North Carolina, been there many times. Washington State, of course, Vicky, you guys already getting it, and you're going to get it really hard. Everybody is. Everybody in the United States is going to get it hard. Everybody in the world is going to get it hard. The government can't handle this. We got the anti-maskers, I'm calling them, the anti-maskers, many of whom are like Doogie Howser, our Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, saying that we don't need masks, which is completely false. And we know that to be false. And now they've got some other medical professionals saying it, and they're making other medical professionals go crazy with this because everybody knows that it's untrue. Let's get this microphone a little better. And so, yeah, and social issues, for instance, with, in some countries, they'll do the man kisses a lot, where we call our social kisses, hugging kisses, when they're greeting each other, like in Italy. It's time to get down to elbow bumps, or even less than that at this point. Let's see here. Let's get to some questions. Hello from Santa Monica. I say Santa Monica because when my niece was really young, remember that song? Santa Monica Boulevard. Remember that song? My little niece, she would say Santa Monica Boulevard. Oh, she was hilarious. G Sun Ri in Santa Monica, or as my niece would say, Santa Monica. All right. Let's see here. Hello in Kentucky, Danny. Let's see. Keep going. Look for any questions. Barbara is saying Georgia has more cases. Atlanta, Rome, Canton, Georgia. Sad. It's going to be so many. It's going to be so many that it's not going to be any use to talk about cases anymore unless they directly affect you. And there will, like everybody watching this, will be directly affected at this rate for sure. Most of us watching this will get it. I'll probably actually get it. So I'm defending myself at this point. Go for walks in the sunlight. That can help, vitamin D, that sort of thing. Exercise, of course, helps. Get plenty of sleep. Sleep is a actual line of defense. Sleep is a real medicine. And so, vitamin D and getting some sleep, that's like that helicopter. That's some airborne defense for you right there. Hello in Croatia. Mia in Croatia, and Barbara Boyer. That's Barbara Boyer. Hello, Barbara. Good. Thank you, Barbara. And hello in Hong Kong, Iris Law. I hope everything is good. And Paul Lewandowski. Trump isn't America's only hope. He's our last. Get a haircut. You think I already need to get another haircut? Well, I'm thinking about getting one of those electric shavers because I'm into saving money, and I don't, all these, razors that I use, they do add up. I don't like to waste money. That's why I never throw away food unless it like stinks so bad that it's walking up and chasing me. All right, let's see. Hello in Deutschland, Utta. Wie geht's dir? Ich hoffe alles gut heute Abend. Und oh man, your government's just as bad as ours. Let's see. Deuce 4. Let's see. Listening. Sound is better today. Mia says great. Uh-oh. Dave says, having trouble getting the feed. Dave, I saw you signed up for my YouTube. I hope it's coming there well. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm using non-English grammar. You can hear me say sometimes, I hope it's going there well. Instead of, I'm sorry, I'm just using grammar that's not English. That would be just different language. So MT Technique, can you do a video covering getting home, self-disinfecting, mask care, and any other steps? Yeah, we can do that. Certainly. And let's see. Tommy Barrios, YouTube comments suck, though. He says, yeah, it's harder to do comments on YouTube. I like the... Peter Ona says, your kill switch. I don't know what you mean. Let's see here. Let it all out. Peter Ona, let's see. Hello from Croatia. Okay. Many stores are being sold out. I don't know why the big toilet paper thing is such a big deal, but and people, they'll look at a photo and say, oh, look at Americans, they buy toilet paper out. Well, they're doing, I'm still talking with foreign grammar. I'm sorry, that's not English grammar sometimes when I've been overseas so long. And so, but it was the same in Hong Kong, same in Australia. Look at these photos coming in Japan. Look at these photos coming from around the world. It's not just Americans, it's Germans, it's Japanese, it's Thais, although Thai stores are still, like the stores I've been into, are still mostly quite full. Hello from Texas, Diana Briston. Cavell Mac says, hey, Mike, the dark visual aesthetic really works. You like this shirt? I changed because the white balance is going off on the camera, and it's kind of difficult to get the white balance right I won't go into the technical stuff, but people that know about photography and videography will know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah, in town from whatever it says. It's what's interesting is so many on ships getting virus. Yeah, I mean, look, if you look back, I've read a lot of historical books on pandemics. I should be looking in the camera. I'm sorry, on pandemics. The ship thing is normal. It's happened for centuries. You know, they call them. There's a reason they're called plague ships, right? It's going to happen to our Navy. It's going to happen to the British Navy. It's going to happen to the Chinese. It's going to happen to the Japanese. It's going to happen to everybody that doesn't take really super ultra draconian steps. I mean, if you are a submarine commander, or if you're in charge of our submarines, it's not going to be down to the commander. It's going to be down to somebody at higher headquarters. But we're at a point now where if you are mission critical people in our military, like on our nuclear submarines and that sort of thing, you really should not be allowed to go home. If you do any shore leave at all, it should be super contained at some, unfun base somewhere that lets you get in the sunlight for just go to the deck of the ship out in the middle of the Pacific. I mean, sorry to say it, but maybe somebody on a submarine right now is reading my or reading an email that I just said this, but it's quite clear. I'm sure everybody on the submarines and the aircraft carriers and the destroyers is already talking about this. You know what's coming, right? You're military people. You know this is how this is going, and this is how it should go. And you just got to suck it up and be a military person. And because we can't afford to lose you. I mean, we can't afford to have our strategic submarines taken offline because of this. We can't afford to have SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force and all of our Green Berets and Rangers and everything offline, but that's probably what'll happen because probably I'm going to guess based on what I'm seeing so far that our commander-in-chief is not going to order draconian measures on our military until it's too late. If I were the president, I would have cut all flights a long time ago. You can look at my interview with Jordan Harbinger that we did back in January. He pre-recorded it, and I've actually got it here. I was basically saying all this stuff in January, and I've been saying it on my live feeds at times and publishing it and just basically on Facebook and social media at times, that this is coming. It's very clearly coming, and now it's shaping up. We can see the shape better. Of course, nobody can see the future, but we can see which way this ball is rolling, and it's rolling right towards the middle of the bowling pins, and there's nothing in the way of it. Hello in Western North Carolina, WNC, Bernie Mac. I love it up in Western North Carolina. I spent a lot of time up there. I went to school up there for just a little while. Hello in Cincinnati, Ohio. And let's see, truckload masks stolen for a hospital in Berlin, Ute saying in Deutschland. So in Germany, a truckload of masks was stolen. Okay. And when it comes to shopping, I was checking on that now. There looks like some stores in different places are selling out of various stuff, rice, lentils, the whole works. I've been telling you, if you haven't shopped yet, you're playing with disaster if you don't have at least a month's supply of food. And that's bare bones minimum is 1 month supply. Sorry, I got to look at the camera. Look at hey, life's a dance. I'm learning how to podcast, so you learn as you go. But you need to have at least a 1 month supply, bare minimum. If not, you're rolling the dice, unless you got a lot of fat like me, in which case, that's why I'm actually slow. I want to fast right now, but I want to conserve my fat in case I need it. But I mean, I've got plenty of food, but then if I leave here and go off to see other stuff somewhere else and they don't have food, like I know I can leave without food. All I got to do is take my water filter. I mean, if I've got my water filter and a bottle of vitamins, I can go for a month without eating. That's no problem. And I'll just take my vitamins and minerals and, I'm good. I got the mental discipline and I can continue to function. But most people might have difficulty with that unless I can help you. I mean, actually, if we get down to that where food is actually a problem, then we'll start doing live feeds and I'll teach you some ways to make the hunger go away and you'll be able to get through it no problem as long as you got some fat and you don't have certain preconditions like type 1 diabetes. If you got type 2, maybe we can help with that. I'm not a doctor, so I'm just going with what doctors say, but I can teach you how to fast and overcome hunger. And if it ever should come to that, it will come to that probably for people who haven't prepared. But for those of us who have prepared, we probably won't come down to that. But let's see. Okay. Hello from Ayutthaya. Ayutthaya is an old capital in Thailand. Such a history in Thailand. Deep, 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 deep history. Conservative value says really, but I don't know what you're saying that in regard to. Dave Cottrell, the government is saying there's nothing to worry about. Let's see. Let me click that so that others can see what Dave said. Did it go up? Let's see here. Well, there we go. The government is saying there's nothing to worry about, that it's an issue, yet people are believing them. Show how they trust the government. When it comes to masks in particular, our government is doing long-term damage to its credibility, as it tends to do on a daily basis. But when it comes to the masks, I mean, we can all, those of us who are paying attention, clearly know that masks work. We clearly know that they're important. And we clearly can see why the Surgeon General, Doogie Howser, Jerome Adams, and Jen Ashton, the chief medical correspondent for ABC, and so many others, are saying that the masks don't do any good. They're saying this transparently, and then they'll say it in the next sentence. They're saying this because we have a shortage of masks, even in the United States. Our government has failed to stockpile masks. It's as simple as that. Our government has not stockpiled masks. If we had stockpiled the billions of masks that we need, then our government would be saying, everybody wear masks. That's what they would be saying. But instead of saying the truth, yes, masks work, but we don't have enough. But that's not what they're saying. They're lying to us, and they're saying that this has a long-term effect. So everything they're saying now is getting in print, and it's in newspapers. It's all over these live feeds. And they're saying that masks don't work. This is persistent. So they put this lie out to the press and to the world. And now, from now on, people will be saying it 20 years from now. Well, masks don't work. The Surgeon General said it in the United States. And then people will be saying, well, that was said 20 years ago, in 2020, before, 100 million people died. But now we know that masks do work. But he'll be saying, yeah, but that's what he said. I saw it right here. I mean, that's how persistent these viruses are. Remember, there's more than one type of virus. There are mental viruses and computer viruses. And one virus that we have now is being spread by the Surgeon General. It's like he has dirty hands and he's coughing on. He is like the spokesman, Jerome Adams, the U.S. Surgeon General, is, our Doogie Howser, wearing that big old Navy hat that's way too big for his little head, is telling Americans in the world that masks don't do any good and that they may be more dangerous than not, which is utterly nonsense. It's unbelievable. That's the U.S. Surgeon General. It's complete propaganda. He'll live with it. I mean, people like me are not going to let him live down. He's going to have to live with that forever. And as is Jen Ashton and ABC for putting this out there and basically being a spokespeople for the virus. All right. So Masai is saying, my friend, Japanese friend, but she's in Australia, I think now. She sent a photo the other day from the supermarket with those aisles sold out, and somebody said they're restocking, which is bullshit. They weren't restocking; their inventory was out. Masai was there, or maybe they were restocking, but the shelves were already empty. It is now over 100,000 infected in the world. Oh, there's a lot more than that, I'm sure. And that's why I'm not even reading the Chinese statistics anymore. I haven't been for a while. I did get a report from the State Department here, which I have here. Let's see. And they actually start off with the State Department starts off with their opening sentences from Chinese statistics. The Department of State, the U.S. Department of State starts off with, there are 98,705 COVID-19 cases. Okay, COVID-19 was named by the Chinese Communist Party clearly through their puppet, the World Health Organization. So let's call it what it is. It's the China plague. So the China plague, this is according, because Johns Hopkins uses these statistics coming from China, and then the Department of State uses those same numbers that Johns Hopkins is. So this is how it goes. China reports their numbers. Johns Hopkins takes those exact numbers and puts them on their website. And then CDC and the World Health Organization puts these numbers out. And then our Department of Health puts these numbers out. They're all coming from China. They're all coming from the Chinese Communist Party. This is the kind of bullshit that's coming from our government straight from China. That's how good their Chinese information war is. Look, I've written 3 books on Chinese information war. 1, 2, 3. This is the 3rd one. It just came out a few days ago. Please buy it. Go to Amazon.jp. Unfortunately, it's only in Japanese language, but that's what it's all about, is Chinese information war. They're already blaming the United States for this. China has started to blame the United States for this. I told you it was going to happen because that's what they do. I've studied this for years. They blame Japan and then they blame China. This is what they always do. Look, I can catch an alligator now just like I could when I was 15 years old. Alligators have certain behaviors that they always do. And when you're hunting, all hunters know, go for that behavior. Like Ginger Robinson sent me a really cool video of this photographer. He put a time-lapse camera or the trigger on it to catch things going across this log, right? There's like a bear coming across and all kinds of birds and a beaver and all kinds of stuff. Squirrels is a really cool video. But this is normal. Like when I was hunting cannibals, I watched one bridge for 3 weeks, arguably 5, because I knew he's probably going to cross that bridge. It's certain behaviors, right? That's why when you're in a war like Iraq or Afghanistan, the enemy will plant landmines, IEDs around bridges, right? Well, here we go. Certain behaviors. China has those behaviors. The Chinese Communist Party, they have certain behaviors. They cross the bridge. They do the same thing. When I make an alligator go underwater, I always know it's going to come up within just a few minutes, and it's not going to come up very far away. It's going to come up really close, right? That's what alligators always do, right? And the Chinese Communist Party, what do they always do when they get in trouble? They always blame Japan, and then they blame the United States. Like after Tiananmen Square, June 4th, 1989, when they did the huge massacre. It wasn't just that massacre. There was many others, and nobody knows how many they killed. What did they immediately start doing? They started going, uh-oh, we're in trouble. The world is coming down on the Chinese Communist Party, and we're facing potential sanctions and all these other things that can cost us economically. And a lot of people say nothing happened to China after the Tiananmen Square, which is untrue. That it was an existential threat for the Chinese Communist Party. It was very damaging for them. So what did Chinese Communist Party do? They went reversion to form, blame Japan. That's what they did. They blamed Japan. They immediately started blaming Japan. They're like, it's Japan's fault. They did a diversion. They started going, what about Nanjing? What about the Nanjing massacre, 1938? What about this? What about that? What about comfort women? What about blah, blah, blah? And people were like, yeah, what about Japan? And then it totally took the heat off of China. And they're doing the same now with this disease, like renaming it from Wuhan virus to COVID-19, right? Well, I'm not going to call it that. Hello in Tucson, Arizona. Let's see. Let's try to take some questions here. Trying to scroll down. Okay. Dave Cottrell is saying, my doctor who is treating my chronic Lyme disease told me yesterday that he is certain this is going to go through the entire population. He says we all have to do our best to support our health. He's right. I mean, this is very clear. By the way, I want to recommend this book that I've seen on Steve Bannon's show, War Room Pandemic. I've watched all the episodes, by the way, but he often has this doctor on there. And he wrote a book called 3 Seconds to Midnight. And I read the book twice, and I've studied it even more. In fact, I finished going through it again tonight. And then other books on, luckily for years, I've read about biological warfare, 1918, bubonic plague. I've read a lot about these things, so I'm not coming in flat-footed. And, I mean, you should read that book. I mean, that book is a serious eye-opener, and he was a lot of us were ahead of the curve coming out and talking about this in January, but then people like him, like the author of 3 Seconds to Midnight and many other infectious disease experts, they've been talking about this since I was a kid. They've been talking about this in the 1800s. You'll find doctors talking and warning about this stuff. I need to find some quotes on that, but I've seen it before. Nothing comes to mind, but I've seen doctors warning about this back in the 1800s. And then we have the 1918 issue. when the 1918 pandemic started, maybe in Haskell, Kansas, nobody really knows. But then it got our army and spread over to France and whatnot. There were medical doctors then that were warning our military commanders and warning Washington leadership what's going to happen. And people are like, no, we got a war going on, and we got to, it was World War I. Yeah, it had a huge war going on. And well, this disease was the biggest enemy of the war. It killed more people than other parts of the war. The disease became part of the war with all the troops in together with trenches. And so it had a strategic effect on the war. And, arguably ended the war. And so, and then it spread around the world, wiped out people along the rail lines in India, and then just smashed India really badly, went all over the place, jumped every island in the Pacific, wiped out entire populations, from what I've read anyway. Of course, I'm not there to audit. But no, people like Steve Hatfield, the doctor who wrote 3 Seconds to Midnight, he's warning about this years ago. And that's why I've been reading about it since I was a kid, because people like Dr. Hatfield have been warning about it. And in our military is constantly warning about it. They're like, chemical warfare, who cares about that? Nuclear war is obviously the next worst. That's incredibly terrible. But biological warfare is the thing that can just like reach out and get everybody. And here we go. And whether or not this was intentional or not is unknown to me. I have no idea. But what we do know is that it is pandemic, and it is going to kill millions and millions of people. And the chances that it will kill millions of Americans is quite high. We'll see. We'll know soon enough. And remember, the first wave, we're at the very front end of the first wave. We're not really into it yet. And the people that keep saying that it's going to slow down in the summer, they don't know this, because not all diseases do that. It might slow down when the hot weather comes, but we don't know this. It could do whatever it's going to do. We're going to know what it's going to do after it does it. We're all going to get the news pretty much at the same time. Etna saying Sydney is having a breakout. Oh, at the moment, it's just getting warmed up. It's just limbering up. Hey, Sherry. Charles says, don't worry, we'll get over this. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. I'm a combat correspondent. I was a Green Beret before that. I hunted cannibals alone in the jungles of India. I'm not really a panicky, worry type of guy. You know what I mean? I'm just prepared. When I would go off to the wars, I would wear all kinds of body armor, helmet, ballistic glasses, flame retardant gear, because I saw people burn to death, that sort of thing. I'll do it. I'll go right back to war tomorrow. But at the same time, I won't go back without body armor. And likewise, when I leave home, I put on latex gloves. I put on my mask. Here, I use this 3M mask, which is more cost effective, more comfortable than the other mask. This is what I wear. I wear this one right here. This one is more cost effective. It's more cost effective, and it's more comfortable, and it's just better. It's a better seal, much better seal. It's funny that the Surgeon General and others are saying you have to have specialty training to wear the N95 respirator mask. That is bullshit. Go to YouTube and you can see it for like a 90-second video will teach you how to wear a mask. You put it on your face. You use the 2 fingers to seal it. Don't use your finger and thumb, but seal it like this. Make it seal as well as you can. And there you go. And if it leaks a little bit, it's better than sneezing on everybody, right? It's better than, even as I talk and I've got this bright light on me, every once in a while I can see some spittle shoot out. And that's the way, because I've got this bright light. Maybe you can see it, maybe not. But every once in a while, that's what happens. We all know, we all talk, we all see when the sunlight's just right. Boom, there went another artillery shot. And if it's an artillery shot with this virus on it, well, hit him in the eye and now he's dead. And so, same thing with these fingerprint scanners when you go through the airports and all this stuff. And then you go and so everybody on the airplane that just came in from Iran and Italy and wherever, China, and yeah, we still are taking flights from China despite what they're saying. And, put your fingers on that. And then you go over and you're at baggage claim and touch your eye and then you're dead. Or you take it home and you kill somebody else with it, or you take it to your office. This is how this goes. chances are everybody watching this, most people watching this are going to get it. Most people watching this probably will actually contract the virus, according to the experts. Okay. Let's see. But yeah, we'll get over it. Charles, I have no doubt that we'll get over it. We'll get over it with a lot fewer people, and it will have dramatic effects on the economy and politics. I mean, for instance, if I keep saying, if there's one thing that can take out President Trump in this election, it might be a handshake. It might be somebody that really hates him, that's like has the disease. They might purposefully infect themselves. They might just get out with 10 anti-Trump people and purposefully infect themselves and go like almost biological suicide bombers. And here's my chance to shake the hand of President Trump. And hello, President Trump. Yeah, that's how simple it can be. The Secret Service needs to keep him back away from. I mean, I want to keep him alive as president. As much as he's screwing up on this virus, but he's out there shaking people's hands like an idiot. I mean, seriously, and he's setting a bad example for everybody. I want him to be alive for the election. And so, let's see. I'm reading some comments and questions here and seeing if there's any particular questions that I can answer. It's scrolling down very slowly. There's so many questions. Hello, Needy in Arizona. And Iris Law in Hong Kong is saying, please use the mask, no matter you are silk or not. Save yourself and others. Oh yeah. Some people, I'm told that in Hong Kong, like shops are not letting people in that aren't wearing masks. And Darlene's saying Biden belongs in federal prison. I don't know about that, but I know one thing: he doesn't deserve to be driving a car if he continues on the road that he's on. He's clearly has some cognitive issues. Joe Biden. Let's see. Travel is saying 30% Iran Congress is sick. They just had an election. I have a feeling, I don't know if that number is correct, but based on other things that I'm seeing, I certainly would not doubt it. And from what I've read, they have the L strain, which is the worst strain that is known at this point, to my knowledge. And Carol Johnson says, I think you are helping spread this disease by scaring people. Shame on you. Yeah. Have a nice day. Let's see. Peggy says, what would you say if you were the president to the American people? What would I say? I would say, I'm declaring a state of emergency. Peggy asked, what would I say if I were president to the American people? I would say, I'm declaring a state of emergency. Our military is now locked down. We're doing force protection as a commander-in-chief. Our submarines are not coming in. If they come in, they're going to go into very quarantined areas. They're not going out to bars. They're not going out to even see their families until we've seen how this thing plays out. I would say our Air Force bases are locked down. I would say NORAD is on lockdown. I would say schools are dismissed insofar as the authority is there to say schools are dismissed. I'm not sure that he can actually say that you can't go to a university because those are private schools. But I would say I strongly recommend closing schools or whatever is within the legal authority. I would certainly lock down the military as a force protection move. I would lock down the White House. I would lock down a lot of things. And I would put all this 8.5 billion or 2.5 billion or whatever is going to the CDC, who is demonstrably giving us bad advice on this and who have demonstrably failed in this pandemic already and before. We're like shoveling coal into our own fire with the CDC. We're shoveling coal into the fire that burns us with the CDC. What we really need to be putting that money into, obviously, is getting our pharmaceuticals and everything back to the United States as quickly as possible, which we can't do quickly. It takes time to set up these factories. It takes time to produce our own masks. How many are produced in the United States now? 7%, something like that. I don't know the number, but some low number of our masks are even produced in the United States. How quickly does it take to get our own mask production? How quickly can we get our pharmaceuticals back? That's what I would be focused on. I would look, we know that the economy is going to get hit. So you got this terrible triangle here of watching the economy collapse, like the Chinese economy has already collapsed. You can either do it under your own control, or you can watch it collapse under the control of the virus. The virus is going to do it at this rate, is how it appears, right? So how do you want to do it? Control it under your hand or under the hand of the virus with a lot of people dead? These companies, whether it's Apple or whoever, are going to. Apple already shut down most of their production, of course, over in China. I don't know what they're doing now. Tim Cook some days ago said they're starting production again. Who knows what's the truth? But what about Boeing? What about all these companies across the United States who have thousands of people work for them? What's the chance that they can keep this out of NASA? What's the chance that we can keep this out of our submarines in the Navy? What's the chance? About approximately zero, right? So then we have to start. So then what? We're going to pull all the submarines in and nobody's on them? Or are they going to be the Love Boat submarines out there, like the Princess Diamond or the Diamond Princess or whatever, and then the latest Princess, and these, so our Navy becomes plague ships? I would take draconian measures. It's too late to half step on this. If we don't take draconian measures, the virus is going to do it for us. I mean, it's coming. It's just a matter of, do you want some level of control or no level of control? All right. Let's see. Let's start putting up some questions here. And hello, Rafaelia in Italy. I hope everything is well there. Let's see. Here's one here from Susan Richardson. Can you please, when you mention a study, link to it? And it needs to be, I don't know, you're saying in a study in 2010, 1400, you need to state where it's from and post a link, because we can't expect everybody to just take anybody's word for it, including mine. We have to state where it's from, and when possible, post a link. I can't always post a link because I might say, well, it came from such and such book, and then the people will just have to look it up. But if you have a link, please save everybody. Susan, thanks for mentioning that. But please always post it. That'll be very helpful for everybody. Carol John says, more propaganda than Nancy Pelosi. Right. Have fun with that. Let's see. Jan Benning is saying, howdy, Mike. Talked to my doctor yesterday. The medical community is very concerned about medication shortages from China and India, as well they should, because a lot of people in the United States and other countries, here in Thailand, over in Europe, are dependent on drugs and precursors, the APIs they call them, that are made in China. And so maybe 80 to 85%. And so that's a problem. Joe is saying sound is messed up on Facebook. I hope not. I hope it's not messed up now. Nathan Bigley seeing lots of comments on media. I'm trying to click that so that it goes up. It looks like we've got some kind of lag here. Seeing lots of comments on media from unprepared people who are walking around with their fingers and ears singing la la la. This isn't serious. Stop spreading panic. Flu kills more. Yeah. You see people coming on this comment thread saying similar, stop causing panic. And this is the thing. This virus it searches for stupid, and then it infects stupid faster than it infects smart. It'll get all of us, but it'll infect stupid people at a higher rate faster. And then the stupid people will get it and sneeze all over airplanes and that sort of thing, because they'll just be stupid. And that's what stupid people do. That's why stupid people accidentally shoot themselves all the time. with guns. And then people say, wow, that's one reason you shouldn't have guns, because stupid people shoot each other. And it's like, well, if you don't wear a seatbelt, tough luck. There you go. And so good evening in Belgium. Okay, Greg says it sounds good. Yeah, Deidre Fowler is right. Don't forget to stock up on luxury good items to make sure you're human. That's important, because psychologically, make sure if you like coffee, or you like hot chocolate or whatever, or get a lot of it. Get spices. Spices are important. A lot of people overlook spices. They'll buy a bunch of food and they'll forget to get things that they like pepper. Make sure you get all the spices that make you happy, and don't forget salt, of course. It's easy to forget salt. I read about this family in Russia. They were out in the wilderness for like 40 years and something like that. And they were out there because they were a religious sect, and then the communist thing happened. And so they were living out in the woods, right? And after all that time, finally they came in or they were kind of brought in. It's an interesting story. You'll have to read it yourself, but look up like Russian family isolation Russia or whatever. And I remember the man of the family, as I recall, he said, somebody asked him, did you miss anything? And he's like, the thing I missed most was salt. And he was, make sure you've got plenty of salt. How many years did the medical industry tell us that salt was, the new bad? And now they're like, salt's not bad. Have all you want. Well, read up on it. Anyway, Amanda Altwood, not all has to take this seriously, but for those of us like my husband who has Crohn's disease and my BFF who has lupus, we take it very seriously. Please don't diminish or make light of this. Thank you. Yeah, I think you can't be talking to me, because I'm taking it with utmost seriousness. This is lethal. This is probably more people, or there's a high chance at least more people will die from this than died from World War II. That's the way it's starting to look. Actually, that's the way it's looked for a while. Problem is, when I say stuff like that, a lot of people will tune out immediately. And that's why, like here I said in an interview in January, I printed it out. It's on the Jordan Harbinger show. Let's see, what did he ask? He asked something about what? Oh, actually, I should read this tomorrow when I've had a chance to read it again, but I printed it out. But I think he asked, what would I say to President Trump? And this was in January that I answered this. I said, well, President Trump, why didn't you do a travel ban? 50,000 people died from this, and he'll probably lose the election. And if that's going to happen, if 50,000 people in the United States are going to die from this, it'll probably happen before summer. So it will absolutely affect the elections. I don't know when it'll happen, and I don't think it'll be 50,000. I think it'll be some number much, much higher. But I remember when I said that, is if I say, a million, I don't know when they'll actually die. Remember, it'll probably come in waves, according to the experts. Like, this is the front end this is the very front crest of the first, not even the crest. This is like the first raindrops of a hurricane, of a Category 5 hurricane. We're getting the first raindrops, and a lot of people are like, well, that's not so bad. Here's one raindrop. Hey, somebody in Seattle's got it. Oop, another raindrop. Somebody in San Francisco's got it. It's nothing. Oh, somebody in Atlanta got it. Another raindrop. And all of a sudden, oh, man, there's a lot of rain coming down. And the next thing you know, wham, lightning. And the next thing you know, hey, airlines are closed. Hey, I'm laid off of my work. And, hey, they just bought this hotel over here as a quarantine center, and it's next door to me, and it's all of a sudden, wow, there's 100,000 cases in the United States. Wow, there's 250,000 they're estimating. This is how this goes. Exponential functions. A lot of people that haven't taken much math, who haven't, taken at least even algebra, might not understand how this math really works. If they haven't understood how exponential functions work, then they're way behind, because as we tend to think linearly, we tend to think, hey, there was 8 cases this week. Therefore, next week there'll be 16 cases, and then there'll be 24 cases, and then there'll be 32 cases. But that's not how it goes. It goes like 8 cases this week. Well, actually, it seems to be doubling maybe every 4 days now. So let's say 8 cases, and then 16, and then 32, and then 64, and then 128, and then 256, and then 512, and then 1024, that same ratio that Pocahontas thought she was. So it goes like that, right? It goes exponentially. And so every 4, and before you know it, boom, you're in the millions. And then you're in the hundreds of millions, and then you're up to a billion. And it happens so fast. It goes slow, 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 slow. It starts to go vertical, and boom, it goes like a rocket straight to orbit. And it happens super fast, and it's like getting hit with a tidal wave. And that's what's happening. We're at the very front end. All the water's going out, and that bad boy's coming. Here it comes. And a lot of ignorant people are like, yeah, we don't need masks. Oh, you're making people panic. All I can say is, listen, all the people that are like, hey, you guys stocking up on food, you're just panicking. I would tell the people that are stocking up on food, if you're American, also stock up on ammunition, because you're going to need it for these people who didn't prepare and suddenly are trying to break into your house and kill your family to take all your stuff. Because as you know, this can lead to, and probably will lead to, a breakdown in law enforcement. When sheriff deputies and police aren't going to work, what's going to happen in our jail system? What's going to happen when our prisons start being like the Love Boat, the Princess, Diamond Princess, or, we've got 1 million prisoners or so that are infected. What are we going to do? I don't know. What are we going to do when jailers aren't going to the prisons to do their jobs for whatever reason? Maybe they're dead. Maybe their wife or husband is sick, or they're whatever. And so what are we going to do? That's how this thing goes. It becomes overwhelming. Okay. Yeah. Cecilia Thompson says, I read today that the Vatican is reporting 1 case, but the Pope still has a cold. Yeah, whatever. Do we trust the Pope? No, he's been a sucker for China, and I've been saying this for how long now? I've published it in 1 or 2 of these books, how bad the Pope has been doing. Let's see. Okay. Let's see, Georgine. Let's see. Looking for any specific questions. Lori saying, I'm not sure why you find it necessary to say these things. We will get infected. I didn't say we will get infected. Context is always important, Lori. Context. I'm saying most of us probably will get infected. Most of us probably will get infected, period. Take it out of context, and I'll call you out and put a spotlight on you because it's stupid. That's how we get bad things, about President Trump or Biden or anything else. We get these little short videos. They're like 30 seconds. And like a medical doctor friend of mine sent me something that President Trump said, and because he hates President Trump, and it cuts off when Trump, the next sentence that President Trump said. And so I was like, don't send me these little clips. You're wasting my time. I want context. I want before what he said. I want after what he said. I don't want these little 30-second clips. That's what propagandists use, and that's what you just used, and I'm calling you out, Lori. That's not what I said. Yeah, and you're sitting there saying, I don't see the use of such a message. We will all die. I didn't say that. You're full of shit, Lori, and I'm going to call you out. This is important. We need to start calling people out that say things like this. Sorry for my language, almost. It's really important. This is a state of war. We are literally, you'll see it. Right now it seems harsh, but really soon you're going to see. This is going to affect you. It's going to affect me. It's already affecting all of us. It's going to affect the economy. It's going to be a very serious problem. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm looking for any specific questions. Unfitted face mask, Deidre Fowler saying, do cause more spread of disease only because you will be touching your face to adjust it or losing. Okay, that's an assumption for starters. Where's it? Make sure to publish the study where you came up with that it's going to because you're touching your face. That's what they're saying. I've watched them say it. Some of these medical experts that are like, if you have an ill-fitting mask, you'll be adjusting it and touching your face. Well, people touch their face anyway all the time. Like a couple times a minute on average when we're awake, right? Look it up. You can see we touch our face all the time. I've slowed down on touching my face because every time I touch my face on accident, I'll tell myself, touched your face. And now notice I haven't accidentally been touching my face. But we do it all the time. We touch our face all the time. And what you don't do is when you're wearing a mask, even if it's ill-fitting, is sneeze and shoot a sneeze 10 feet down the street. You know, wind is behind you, sneeze might go even further, right? Or in a hallway. This is quite serious. All right. Hello, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan Trainer. Telework can be important, and also schools at this point to do. I mean, this is a time for us to really make some vital changes to schools as well. You know, we talk about security in schools and those sorts of things, and maybe this, that, and the other for teachers. Well, this is a chance to really push school at home. Of course, you know, as has been said for years, in many cases, school has become something of a daycare thing more than anything else. People have been saying this for years. And in some cases, I mean, I was lucky. The schools I went to when I was a kid were really good schools. I didn't realize that until I left, because at that point, to my knowledge, I don't know who was even talking about this. Somebody probably was, but I was a little kid, so I didn't have that situational awareness. But now we see a lot of people talking about the schools here are great, the schools there are terrible, or whatever. Luckily, I know that the schools that I went to were actually quite good. I only knew that later when I realized, well, seeing people that went to other schools. Let's see. Cecilia Thompson is saying, my government is preparing the army to deal with the virus. What government? And please, you mentioned before, but please mention that. All right. Okay, let's see. I'm looking for questions here. Yeah, exactly, Martha. I mean, it was common sense that masks work until the United States government did not stock up on masks. And so they left the United States unprepared for this. It was common sense because, you know, common sense is a dangerous thing. But we've been warned about masks for years. That's why Japanese wear masks all the time when they get colds and that sort of stuff. You know, there's studies out, for instance, by Lancet that I've published somewhere before here, that, you know, that the masks work, and these came before all this, right? And now we've got this coming, and our government's like, well, no, masks don't work because we didn't prepare and we don't have all the masks in stockpile. And meanwhile, now the CDC is like, we need more money. Well, hello, where were you all this time? Where were you and the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense and everybody else who should have known that we're going to need masks? What if there's a biological warfare attack on the United States? You know, which has obviously been a high. We got attacked on 9/11 in that time frame by anthrax, right? There was anthrax attacks back then. Why doesn't the United States have billions of masks? Why aren't they stockpiled across all the states and territories from north to south? We should have masks stockpiled and all kinds of PPE stockpiled all over the United States and the territories, as should Canada, as should Japan, as should Thailand. We're completely unprepared. And so now our Surgeon General, Doogie Howser, Jerome Adams, with that hat that's way too big for his little head. You should see him in front of the White House. He's got this big Navy hat on. You know, he's got his Navy uniform on, so he's got his authority. He's the Surgeon General in front of the White House. And so, you know, and he's telling us that masks don't work. So he's got all the authority things going on with the big Navy hat and the uniform. He's in front of the White House, and, you know, and he's telling an absolute lie. He's done a huge disservice to millions of people around the world. Let's see. Deanna, let's see. All right, let's see if there's any other, what does the recovery time says? Well, Sherry, that's a good question. Because if you look, these sorts of things are still being discovered. First of all, we can't trust any of the statistics from China. We know that, right? And so those statistics are out. And it's only made big spreads out of China, and we can't trust Iran. It's finally hit South Korea, which will certainly be far more trustworthy. Of course, they're out busy putting blame on that cult It's the cult's fault, right? This always happens every time that there's something like this. Religious groups get blamed and whatever. And maybe that cult did have something to do with the spread, but you can bet now they've demanded all the, members of the cult and all the files. And I mean, this is a way that governments get the responsibility off of themselves, because South Korea should have done what the United States should have done, which is cut off all flights. It should have cut off all ground travel outside, knowing that this is coming. They should have known that it was coming. It's obvious that it was coming. Now, in the future, when books are written, people go, it was very obvious, and people overlooked the signs. And it's like, some of us did not, and some medical doctors have been warning about this since the 1800s, right? So it's not like we weren't warned. Our grandparents were warned. And it's been something that's the subject of many movies and books and all kinds of, even a lot of people hate Mr. Microsoft guy, Bill Gates, but he's been warning about it for years. Bill Gates has been warning specifically about this for years. Hate him or not, the guy's not stupid. He's very smart. And I know people hate him for whatever reason, but the fact is he was way ahead of this. Well, all of us that are alive now are way behind, because people were warning us about this since long before any of us were born. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see here. Colin Smith, on both Facebook and YouTube. If you are buffering, you can click on the gear thing. Let's see. I hope this isn't buffering too much. Cecilia Thompson says, news just said for British Columbia, we have 21 cases out of 2,000 cases who are still in containment. They would listen to you, but then say prepare for several months of outbreaks, pick a side. I know what side I'm going to pick. I'm picking the side that's very clear. It's the same side I picked with the Iraq War and the Afghan War and what was going to happen with Korea and Japan relations that I was out in front of as well, or the insurgency in Hong Kong that I was also out in front of. I'm going to pick the side that comes from studying 7 days a week, as I'm doing now, and the side that doesn't take political sides, period. I don't care. I'm not going to take any political side. I'm siding with what appears to, wherever that ball lands is where I'm going to call it. And right now, the ball is in the virus's court. The virus has the initiative. We are strictly defensive at this point. Anybody who's talking about containment is way behind. Anybody who's saying we might get into a pandemic, you're out of the conversation. It's way beyond that. We're definitely in a pandemic. It's all over the world at this point. It is uncontainable. At this point, the only thing we can do is mitigate damage. The only thing we can do is slow it down and increase your own ability to resist it by, for instance, getting plenty of sleep, by getting sunlight, doing exercise, basic things, and probably not at the gym, not at the yoga place. I'm not touching my face anymore. And you know what I'll do with this? And when I'm finished, I'll take it and put it outside. And when the sun comes up, it'll be in the sun. Getting ultraviolet. We can take a lot of precautions, but most of us are probably going to get it. Van Zant Ronda is saying some of the biggest and greatest prepper groups are listening close, Michael, and we see you doing very good. Thank you. We all have been prepped for years and have tried hard to get others to listen. Good job, sir. Hey, I'm with you, man. That's why I watch so many prepper videos. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about prepper videos, or many great prepper videos on YouTube. I want to give the advice that I've been giving in other podcasts. Let me take a drink of water. Thank you for that break. Everybody's situation is different. For instance, if you live in Hong Kong, New York City, Anchorage, Alaska, Hawaii, it depends on where you live in Hawaii, right? So everybody's situation is different. If you live in Hong Kong, highly densely populated, you're going to have a different survival and prep situation. Prepper is what we call people that prepare for the worst case scenarios and pray for the best, right? And so preparation for somebody out in the boonies of Alaska will be far different than for somebody in Manhattan or in Hong Kong or in Key West. So all of us will have different situations. I know my particular situation, so I've prepared as best as possible, and I'm some would say well over prepared, which is the way it should be. And so in my situation in Thailand, I'm quite well prepared, right? I've got water safety, I've got water security, I've got food security, I got extra fat on me, I've got extra vitamins and minerals, and I've got extra ability to cook. I could cook for months without electricity. I got more than I need. It's very cheap. You might say, why do you prepare so much? Well, how much does it cost to go get one of those propane things or two of them? It's like nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, you can have the ability to cook and cleanse water as well if you have to boil it, if you get down to that. I don't want to waste fuel boiling water, but if I have to, I got plenty of fuel. There's so many different ways. So I've got, and it's not expensive. And even if it's not a worst case scenario, I'll just deplete my inventory back down after this is, gone. If I'm still alive, then I'll just eat through my inventory, and then I'll get all that money back by not, spending it again on food because I've already bought it, right? And that's what everybody can do. But if you wait till the last minute, then it's called hoarding or panic buying or whatever. But people like me, which is millions of us around the world, are well prepared. And so, but look up, listen to the preppers, the people that so many people look down on, these preppers. Those are the ones that are not going to be panicking. They're going to be like, well, I'm just here reading a book. I got a lantern. My electricity's out. I got plenty of electricity. I got all these batteries. I got this thing that'll charge my batteries with the sun. I don't care. So if the electricity's out for 3 months, who cares, man? I'll just read books. I'll, do sports out in the yard or something. But don't go to the gym, obviously. So look up these prepper videos on YouTube and look those up for your particular situation and also your economic situation. It doesn't matter if you don't have much money. You can still do a huge amount of things to prepare. Like buy one, get one free is one of the ways I prep over constantly. When I'm in a store and I see buy one, get one free, I'm like, okay, is it something I would eat for starters? I'm not going to buy garbage I don't want to eat unless I'm, really hungry, which I don't get to that situation very often anymore. But I'll buy it. If it's something I would naturally eat, I'll go ahead and buy it because it's half price, right? And then I'll just put it in my inventory, and then if it's, I'll eat stuff that's way past expiration date. Of course, there's some things that will actually honestly expire, like, extra virgin olive oil. You know what I mean? That sort of stuff. That will actually expire, believe it or not. But there's other things like vinegar. Of course, you're not going to be swilling down vinegar, but like honey never expires. There's a lot of things that don't expire, or they can go well beyond their expiration dates. I almost never throw away food for expiration. My grandfather, he used to bring home sour milk when I was a kid, and he would just pour sugar in it and shake it up and drink the milk, or make something with it. You can still make something out of it. There's a reason why a lot of those old folks would say all is well in the land of milk and honey. Wait a minute. Does that come from the Bible? All is well from the land of milk and honey? Where does that come from? Does that come from the Bible? I should know. I read the whole Bible. How many Christians have read the whole Bible? I don't even go to church. I read the whole Bible. Let's see. That's why sometimes people say, hey, you just made a biblical quote. And I'll be like, did I? It's in the back of my mind somehow. Let's see. And by the way, the people that'll be helping in the Tennessee issues and so many others, we just had a tremendously terrible tornado rip through Tennessee. And every time it's always like church groups everywhere I go. I mentioned this when I was in Hong Kong, by the way. All these countries I go to, whether it's Philippines, I've been to 75 countries. Well, 74 if you don't count the United States. And I've been all over the United States except for Alaska and one other state. But I've been really all over the United States. And I mean in detail. You know what I mean? Like all over Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, coast to coast. I'm not talking about just passing through. I've really done the Dennis the Menace and gone through America, And I've just seen a lot of things. We can talk about that later. But the bottom line is when we have disasters or or things go bad, I always see church groups out there, and Sikhs will do it too. Also, I've seen Buddhists do it here in Thailand. Buddhist groups come out and help big time, big time. And Sikhs will do it too. There's just not that many Sikhs around. But Sikhs will absolutely help. If like there's a good while, if there's a Sikh temple in your town or whatever, you can count the Sikhs will be out helping. That's just what they do. Good people. When I've had, needed help in India, Sikhs help me. That's why whenever Sikhs need help, I'm like, oh, it looks like he needs help. I'll be like, hey, you need some help? Not that they very often do, but like over in the fighting over in Hong Kong, I came across some Sikhs that looked like they needed some help one night. And I was like, hey, you guys Sikhs? Yeah, like, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, everybody knows. Anyway, so Sikhs help me all the time. Or they did when I was in India. But and when you go to a place like Philippines and you see where the missionaries go, or Nepal, they're not allowed to do much in Nepal, but the people always have better teeth. They'll have better health. They actually will do a lot for people that their governments just will not do. Let's see. Amanda is saying CDC won't be transparent with Trump on this. Trump has got problems that he has to think about with the economy, of course, because there's more than one threat here. We've got threat from the virus. That's a direct biological threat. But then there's also threats to the economy, which has an indirect biological threat, and many other threats, political threats, and all sorts of other things. So, I mean, he's got this very difficult balancing act. I'm sitting here saying what you should do to prepare for the virus. And also, but he's got a larger problem set. He's got to deal with the economy as well. So I understand that, and I empathize greatly. But he shouldn't do that while downplaying the virus, because this virus is going to kill a lot of people. And downplaying like the use of masks, instead just be direct with us and say, hey, we didn't prepare. We don't have enough masks, and bottom line. So we would prefer that you stay home. But as soon as you say stay home, they'll be like, the government's panicking. Why do you really panic? How many people really panic? What percentages of us really actually panic? Unless there's like a fire, that causes a biological immediate panic that you got to get out. That's why you have to have those big giant doors, so much door space per unit people. Let's see here. Looking for any questions. Okay, there's so many here, but I'm skipping past a lot of just that aren't actual questions. Catching some vitamin D while isolating myself on a lake in Covington, Georgia. Good, Lauren. Good. Hope you're getting a good tan. And hello, Needy. Everything you're in Arizona. You got great chances for sunlight. Of course, Arizona's just nice to begin with. Let's see. All right. Magnesium and vitamin D, oregano. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Iris Law is saying, I'm in Hong Kong. When Wuhan breaks out and lock up the other day, all people wearing masks. After that day, we can't buy any mask in normal price. Yeah. I had, my cat trying to get in. Sorry. I had 400 masks sent to Hong Kong. I bought 600 in one lot, and then I bought a bunch more, and I've given them all out because I'm using these. And I've just kept a few. I've always had masks on inventory because you know what? I listen to the infectious disease experts. And you know how much those little masks cost when it's not an emergency? Like almost nothing. You know what I mean? How much are these things when there's not an emergency? Like very little. So I had a bunch already. So I was never in any emergency situation. And then, from Hong Kong fighting, I learned that these are really great masks because Hong Kong freedom fighters are often wearing this mask. or this similar type. So I learned a lot from them. I was wearing my military mask, my M50 military mask, which is really great. But this one is a good half face mask, and a lot of the Hong Kong fighters are wearing this against tear gas, right? And so I'm sorry, I'm not looking in the camera. And so I got this sort of mask, and let me show you once again. It's got a pre-filter here, and so it's got two filters. It's got this one. I selected the 6001. That's just an organic vapor filter. It's light. It's really small. I got that one. And then this insert is a P95, and I'll put it close where you can see it. You can get those on Amazon very cheaply. And I'll give you a chance to screenshot it. And I hope my fingernails are clean. They should be. I clean them all the time. Let's see. But I'm not getting a manicure. I'll tell you that stuff because there's no way I'm not going to anywhere where I'm not even going to get my hair cut. I'm cutting that's why I'm about to order one of those electric razor things to save more money and I'm not going to go get my hair cut. What's the best electric razor? The one I found that would shave my head really nice is so expensive, but still it'll save money in the long run on the razors, or just getting my hair cut, or getting the disease. Most of us are going to get it, it looks like, but that doesn't mean we all have to get it all at once. If we get it all at once, hospitals get overrun. Okay, Richard Frank story. I didn't see what you're talking about, Richard. Story. I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Uh, Michelle Witzel saying toilet paper buying is because folks don't want to think of alternatives if they run out. So it's one of the first things to buy. It's interesting because, I was a Green Beret, and I've also spent so much time out in the jungles and the deserts and the forest. I don't even care, man. Toilet paper, I don't need it. And so it's like, I just, how much toilet paper do I go through in a month? Like almost zero. You know what I mean? Especially Americans, well, not me, but Americans use these very savage toiletry techniques. We're somewhere in between Indians doing it on the train tracks. You ever been to India? You ever seen Put Your Poo in the Loo video? Look that up on YouTube if you want to laugh. It's sort of a laugh, but if you've been to India like I have, I went all over the place. You'll see, I don't know, I've seen 10,000 people pooing in the street and the train tracks, or probably more. I mean, you see them every day, especially in the mornings. And that's why they have this put the poo in the loo video thing to try to get Indians to poo in the loo. Anyway, and then you got Japanese who are ultra clean. They got those, electronic water toilets that are like every perfect, and then they got an air dryer. Those are perfect. That's what Americans should have. And then so you got ultra clean, that would be Japanese. And then you got very clean, that would be Thais with the modern toilets, not with the old ones, but Thais with the modern ones. They use the water bum gun, people call them. And but then the old way is very dirty as well. And then you got Americans using paper, which is like totally savage. And then you got like Indians doing it on the train tracks. So on the hierarchy, Americans are about halfway up. I mean, we should really, those Japanese toilets, you should really be investing in those. I mean, it's real. Like, where's some of my friends who lived in Japan before, and then they go back. Where's my friend from Arizona? You on right now? People who have gone, lived in Japan or someplace and had the nice toilets. Then you come back to the United States and you're like, toilet paper? That's only in absolute emergencies. You know what I mean? It's like they invest in one of those Japanese toilets, which you should do. I mean, it's crazy to even use toilet paper. That's why America has all these big pipes and Thailand doesn't. That's why when you use paper, and you'll have all these warnings on Thai restrooms, don't put toilet paper in the toilet because it'll get stopped up, because their toilets aren't made for toilet paper. It was only recently in recent generation. I don't know when Thailand started using toilet paper, and a lot of them still don't. A lot of them still use the old way, which is quite unsanitary. But the ones that use the bum gun, much more sanitary and washing hands very well, uh, they don't need toilet paper except for drying. People use it for. I highly suggest that you get one of these new toilets, and this is your chance to put it in if you're a home, if you're a home, if you like to do these things yourself. Creighton Pirate says the government of India today declared state of emergency. Yeah, they should. It's all right. All right. Gene says, when has illegals become more important than legals and natural born citizens? I'll tell you when. When a bunch of liberals got elected and decided that somebody over there who couldn't take care of their own country should come into your country and live with you and take advantage of everything that you've got when we could have helped them at home. But that's why. Okay, from the Department of State, I started reading this earlier and got sidetracked. But as of the 6th of March, at 0623 Eastern Time, Washington time, the Johns Hopkins University reported 20 states have confirmed presumptive COVID cases, which is the China plague. That would be Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Nevada, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wisconsin. There it is. You can see, right? Screenshot it if you want, or you can find it online. Yeah. The CDC reports 46 individuals under quarantine. The food and yeah, we're quickly going to reach the point where you're going to need to quarantine people. I don't know how you're going to do it, other than self quarantine, and that will be problematic to say the least. The food and drug. Another thing, by the way, about stocking up on food and prepping for food is, for instance, if I get sick, I don't have to go shopping for food. I've already got it. I've already got plenty of water. I've already got everything. I don't have to go out and infect other people. Or if I'm too sick, if I'm that sick, I can't shop anyway. Or if when the plague gets super bad, which will be soon, and if you're not sick yet, why would you want to go out and shop week by week when you can just go get everything now when the supply lines are still open now? According to some reports today, of course, some stores are starting to sell out in various places, and on Amazon.com, where a lot of people are doing grocery ordering now. Apparently, many items are out of stock there. And also, as I was researching that on Amazon.com, I saw reports that Amazon.com has been selling a huge amount of food that is out of date. And remember, some food that's out of date actually is bad. And then there's other food that's out of date. There's dates put on salt, and honey, which, salt and honey don't go bad, right? Amazon has been demonstrably selling food that's out of date, and apparently they're having shortages themselves. But so you can't count on, getting home delivery after you get sick. Now's the time, because remember, supply lines are still open within the United States. Even if a store is totally sold out tomorrow, they will continue to resupply for now. So get stocked up now while the getting's good. And people will call that hoarding or whatever. I'm already stocked up. I'm not hoarding. I got everything I need. I don't need to go. I go to the store to see how the store is doing. Are people doing anything? Like, I bought some Tabasco the other day just to have a reason to be there, I guess. You know what I mean? So, I've already got plenty of Tabasco. If you're well stocked up, you also don't have to leave. You don't have to burn gasoline if gas prices go through the sky. You don't have to, because there's a lot of things that can start to fail with fuel supplies, electricity, and you don't want to have to go out to shop to get that. And if you live in a place like New York or wherever, and there's many places in the United States that don't have any stores nearby because, especially places that had riots years ago, like 2 generations ago, They had these riots and stores never came back to their neighborhoods. So they have to take long trips miles away to go shop. And if you're not in perfect, great health to go walk 5 or 10 miles to shop, and all of a sudden all the buses aren't working, guess what? I mean, that's where people start getting hungry and doing all sorts of criminality. And so there you go. Stock up while the getting's good. Let's see. 2 Georgia schools closed until 12 March. Until 12 March. Yeah, right. And Yeshiva University in New York is closed until 10 March. I guess they're sanitizing now. Prepare to be closed for much longer soon. All right. U.S. Coast Guard reports captain of the Port of San Francisco, in coordination with the CDC and the Unified Command of all these different things, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Customs and Border Patrol, the Princess Cruise Line, the California OBES, and local officials directed the cruise ship Grand Princess not to enter port. And you still see advertisements for cruise ships. I saw one tonight when I was watching a show. I was watching Pandemic, of all things. I love that show with Steve Bannon, and there's an advertisement for cruise ships on there, for a cruise ship. I'm like, yeah, right. The United States Coast Guard reports 100 coronavirus test kits were delivered to the cruise ship by California Air National Guard. I saw photos of a helicopter. It looked like a Black Hawk actually delivering some test kits to one of the ships. Okay. A lot of this you can just find on the CDC or the Department of State website. And it's just daily, or is this? Maybe this isn't for the public. Maybe I should just read it out to you. The vessel remains offshore of San Francisco pending further direction. CDC reports the ship has 2,422 passengers and 1,122 crew on board. United States Coast Guard reports 100 coronavirus test kits were delivered to the cruise ship by the California Air National Guard. Helicopter, 45 test kits were used to collect samples aboard the vessel on the 5th of March. 45 kits were recovered and have been transported to Richmond, California. The Unified Command continues to develop courses of action pending test results. HHS reports there are 2 suspected COVID-19, that's the China plague, cases on the CS Viking Sun, which is Norwegian flagship, off the coast of East Java, which is Indonesia. 930 passengers with approximately 556 AMSITs, which means American citizens AMSITs. There are no new CDC travel health notices or DOS, Department of State travel advisories. Entry prohibition is being implemented in 70 countries for passengers arriving from COVID-19 affected nations, which is nations with China plague. The Italian government is closing theaters and cinemas and suspending public events countrywide. All schools and universities are closed until 15 March. It's going to go beyond that. Media sources report a patient in Vatican City clinic used by priests and employees has tested positive. As of 0445 ET 6 March, so that's Eastern time, which is Washington time, a Department of Homeland Security reported 55,083 travelers have received enhanced screening. What's enhanced screening? Hey, have you been to China lately? I don't know. Including 78 who were referred to the CDC for further screening. FEMA NRCC Response Operations Cell is activated. FEMA Incident Management Team is deployed to Washington. Emergency EOC is Emergency Operations Center. And all right, there's basically everything's going on in Oregon and Washington. Their emergency operations centers are fully activated. Let's see, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Michigan, Montana, Pennsylvania EOCs are partially activated. Indiana EOC that's a emergency operations center, is enhanced staffing. Let's see, Arkansas, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Utah, and West Virginia EOCs are at monitoring. Department of DC Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency is at monitoring level. So there you go. Okay, and the Iranian government is sick. All right. we'll answer a couple more questions. You have a family that has a cruise next month, Tammy says. Well, if I were you, I would tell them to make other plans. Unless they're cruising alone on like a private yacht. Okay, Bernie Mac. I'm slowly getting ready to go back to my old high school and tight haircuts. Yeah, your old high tight haircuts. Chinese, many Chinese are shaving everything like me, going Mr. Clean, which I like better anyway. Let's see. My rudeness is shining. I can be quite rude, Audra. I can be quite rude with people that are willing to risk the lives of others and who absolutely lie in front of people and absolutely take things out of context and directly lie and say things publicly that can and will get people killed. I can be pretty rude, because the thing about rudeness is it can jerk people's attention there, and it reflects. Some of it will splash back on me, of course. And you'll say, I'm rude, I'm going to tune that guy out. And others will say, wait a minute, hey, maybe I should pay attention. That lady is lying. That doctor, what's her name? That's on ABC, the surgeon. What was her name? She just came on and lied to the American public and thus the world that masks don't work. What's her name? Let her name go down in infamy. By the way, Hong Kongers, I saw Chili Lucas. I saw one of his videos. He's down back in Chile, huh? He seems pretty distraught down there. Hey, Chili. I hope everything's going good. Chili was doing many of the videos when I was covering fighting in Hong Kong, and he wasn't in the fighting. He was in his wherever apartment or something. I don't know, but he would live stream lots of different other people's videos like mine, and I guess according to him, he got pretty depressed in Hong Kong, and he's gone back to Chile, and I mentioned to a friend of mine today in Hong Kong, Chili Lucas should have come out in the fighting with us, where we were getting tear gassed and rubber bullets shooting us and that sort of thing. And because that lifts your spirits. I'm only semi-joking, actually. There's something about sitting at home and not getting any sunlight or exercise that can make people depressed. I'm not saying that was Chili Lucas's issue, but I hope Chili Lucas is doing good. He did a great job in Hong Kong and was very helpful to many people. Good. And Anna Mae Campbell, I hope you do stock up. Tammy saying we will be in a depression if we get shut down. As you know, what do people say about a recession is when your neighbor is out of work, and a depression is when you're out of work. And there is a real serious chance that we will go into a global recession. I would say, I'm not an economist, so I will say this. I've watched people lying about this epidemic. I watched them lie about the Iraq war. I watched them lie about the Afghan war. I've watched them lie about a lot of things right in our faces. I've watched them, and I've called some of them out, the ones I've been able to study. A lot of people in key positions are lying about this virus. And so now, why would I expect them to tell the truth about the economy? If I were to extend that line that they've been lying, and keep going on that trajectory, that would tell me they're lying about the economy. Now, obviously, a problem is confidence. The economy can be based a lot on confidence as well, and you don't have to be an economist to know that. Our bridges are still out there, our infrastructure is still there, but if a lot of people do start to get sick and they don't go to work, if offices are shut down, which the chances of that happening, or what do you think the chances of that happening? I would say the chances of that happening are approximately equal to the same chances that this virus will go as it looks like it's going to go. It's already a pandemic. We can see that. If the chances, if it continues on this trajectory, then huge big businesses are going to close in the United States, period. And a lot will go out of business. And just like, that's the way it looks. I mean, we literally could go into a depression. We really could. And we'll all be affected. It's affecting my new book. My new book just came out this week in Japan. It's not, my publisher said it's not doing as well as these two books. I told him before it went out, I was like, I think we should hold off on this book. After all, I'm the one that researches stuff like this. And according to my research, now is not a good time to roll the dice. Well, unless you're rolling the dice on setting up a mask production facility. If you want to go into the business of this, then and it's look, people have stopped donating to me. You know what I mean? It's like only what did I get? One or two donations in the last 24 hours. Thank you very much for everybody who's donated and supported my work. By the way, that's how all this gear gets bought. I'm always having to upgrade. I need a new laptop now. Everything's always like that. And so, but I really hugely appreciate all the support. And this, my support goes right down. Every time I report something really, really badly, like that we were losing the war in Afghanistan, and I actually reported that. I was like, when I report this, my support will go down. I'm reporting that we're losing the war in Afghanistan. And sure enough, my support went right down through the floor, But the fact is, we were losing the war in Afghanistan. And people that had listened to my advice and prepared on that advice and invested in me being correct, if you invest in me being correct on this, you're investing very wisely. And I'm telling you, my strong feeling is that the U.S. economy is going to be very badly hurt. And I know that hurts me. People are not going to donate to me because they're going to go, I have to save all my pennies. And some people will cancel. Some people have already canceled support to me, so I should be out here going, no, everybody, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. No, I'm telling you, go get some food. I'm telling you, stock up on any medicines that are essential to your life and limb that are coming from China. And you'll have to research which medications those are. And so, so I'm basically reporting things that are hurting me. But they're the truth, and they're obviously the truth. They'll be born out to be the truth. So there we go. Let's see. I'm looking for questions here. Mike, when my brother had cancer, I would shave his head with his electric razor in no time. That's what I got to get as an electric razor. And I want one that never breaks. And I want one that lasts the rest of my life, like my water filter. If you buy cheap stuff, you're buying expensive stuff. You shouldn't buy stuff just because it's expensive, obviously. We all know that. But when you get like these cheap can openers that I've gotten here before, I went through what did I showed you? Like 8 can openers or something. And they were all these Chinese made can openers. They didn't work. I finally had to order one from the United States, which I haven't even tested it yet. I think I'll test it tonight to make sure it works. And so, hello, Ellie. So you're going expensive by going cheap. Yeah, everybody needs to invest in food and water. Fasting tips, cool. Yeah, I mean, if the food shortages start to get severe, I'll fast with you. I'll show. I got plenty of food. I don't need to fast, but I'll fast with you. I'll fast with you day by day, hour by hour, and I'll tell you tips to get through it and or to actually benefit from it. Fasting is quite good. I love fasting. I love eating too, and but fasting is great. Deb says the reason Americans are getting this now is because of Americans travel is because of people. I'm sorry, traveling to Asian countries and being exposed before coming back from visiting family members that probably did not know they were exposed. Well, if you really know how we intermix in the world, it's not that simple. Huge amounts of American business are in China or in Asia. Or there's huge amounts of exchange students from China and other countries. Everything's all mixed. You're talking about how the salt sea mix here. There's no South Koreans now blaming this cult in Korea. That's the reason that Korea is having an outbreak. Nope. The outbreak was coming. It was coming. Just like blaming a specific raindrop for what's happening. It's coming. Now, that cult and their practices may have exacerbated an immediate spread in the beginning. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it was coming. And just like, that cult didn't spread it in Iran, probably, that Korean cult. And they probably didn't spread it in many other places. They probably didn't start it in China. So, yeah, we can blame a lot of things. But the bottom line is, it's like blaming the weather. I mean, it's coming. What's happening on the ground here now in Thailand, a lot of people are doing like a lot of Americans are doing. They're sitting on logs like turtles. Let's see. Raquel says, Costco was out of rice and almost out of toilet paper that they just got a pallet of. What kind of water filter do I use? I use a Katadyn pocket filter. And Katadyn told me today, because I sent them, I've been communicating with them on something. One of my old UV microbial killer deactivator, you might say, it stopped working. I got it many years ago. So there's actually sending me a free replacement. So it should be here Monday. And of course, I'll set that package out in the sun for a while, and so that it gets sunlight on it, so that if the delivery person is sick, I won't bring it into my home. But the water filter that I use, the pump filter, is a pocket filter, and I got that one, I think, in 2002, because I used that for my cannibal hunting, and I used it in the wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, used it in China, used it in Tibet, used it all around Nepal for a year. I say I put 1,000 gallons through it. It's probably more than that. Because not only was I using it, that filter, the Katadyn pocket filter, it's called pocket filter. You can see them all over the place. Or you can see them on Katadyn website or on Amazon or whatever. I don't get any money from that. But I've used that one since about 2002. It has to be 2002 because I see it in one of my photos from 2002. But I sent them a number that's on the filter today, or last night. I sent it to Katadyn, and they responded to me today. The number is 2301, right? And they said that means it was made in the 23rd week of 2001. So the one that I'm using was made in June of 2001. And I got it in 2002, or maybe I got it in 2001. But I've had it since at least 2002, and it's the same filter I've been using ever since. It's a really great filter. It was expensive, but guess what? I haven't had to get another one. So there you go. And it hasn't broken on me when I need it. You know what I mean? You know how expensive a filter can be if it breaks on you when you're 2 weeks from the nearest road, which has been my life many, many times. Like I'm a week or 2 weeks literally walk from a road. You know what I mean? And so there's not going to be any purification out there, you know? So I'm looking at the filter. It's sitting over on my other desk. And so, Katadyn pocket filter. Get a good one. Don't mess around and get something cheap. You get these cheap things, and if it's mission critical, then the cost can be, you get a waterborne disease and you're laid up out in the jungle somewhere, or even dead. So now is the time to Cindy's saying that we want to know how to lose a pound. Women want to learn. Listen, if we have food shortages in the United States, Americans have an obesity problem. We can work on it together. We can work on it through. We call it like China plague fasting. It'll be like a new fast. We'll call it the China plague fast, the Wuhan fast, right? And then if you give it like Wuhan fast, it'll sound exotic, and people will be like, yeah, the Wuhan fast. And like 50 years from now, they'll be like, hey, I'm doing the Wuhan fast. And they won't realize it came from when we were in the middle of a plague. All right. Now, one thing that's important is our doctors and our nurses and our EMTs and our law enforcement. They are now our frontline soldiers on this. And they're going to need all the support we can give them. Like when our soldiers go off to wars and we give them all this support and lavish them with this, that, and the other, which is important. Psychologically, it's important. Just to get cards and stuff from kids is important. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, because the soldiers will post those things all over the headquarters or in their tents or whatever, and they don't even know who the kid it was that sent it. It just makes them happy that some kid drew them a picture, And so, and me too, I would put those up around me, because it just because this is what it's about, But if you remember that doctors and nurses and other frontline professionals a lot of them are going to die. That's clear. And they're going to be working long hours. They're going to be working, as much as they can work. They're going to need every sort of support, whether that's watering their lawn, feeding their dog, or emotional support, or whatever support. Just remember that the doctors and nurses who are going to be frontline on this are going to be taking more chances than anybody. And law enforcement going to continue to go to work. What's going to happen when a law enforcement officer gets sick from this? He or she's going to be off the line, right? What happens when they were sick and they were in a room with 20 other law enforcement officers? What happens when the SWAT team commander gets sick? You know what I'm saying? So we could be working on a lot lower numbers of officers on the street soon. Very high chance. And likewise with doctors and nurses. So in addition to overwhelming the medical facilities with not enough beds, our frontline soldiers, which will be our medical personnel, our people that work in prisons, our law enforcement officers that work in the streets, FBI, all these people are going to be hit, and they're going to need our support in every different way. If like your neighbor is a FBI agent and all of a sudden is working extra hours because, 20% of the agents are off of work, well, help him out or help her out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're going to need help. And it's going to be down to people like us that are prepared and are not sick. Well, I might get sick. Any of us can be sick very quickly. You're right, bro. They're going to cut out the internet. Well, they could. I've got Michael.Yon Kit Moon, who is always correct with every single comment. Since how long have you been coming on my page? Long time. Every single comment you ever made was absolutely accurate. And he's absolutely accurate here. You and Kit Moon again. Use this Katadyn ceramic water filter. I do. The Katadyn pocket filter. Okay. Uta in Deutschland says, listens very good. Thank you for the information and warnings. Now we have storage in some products in Germany. Good. Das ist gut. MREs, Jane saying, I wish I had a bunch of MREs here. I don't really need them. MREs are meals ready to eat. I think everybody that can get a hold of those should always have a few around. One MRE is good for one adult for one day easily. It's easily. How many calories are in an MRE? Is it like 4,200? You can look it up. It's a lot. You're not going to go through that many calories in a day, but unless you're, playing professional football or something. But if you just have one MRE per family member per day, that's going to be way overkill. And the way that you need to do it is do it the way soldiers do it. They'll have an extra box. So when you crack open an MRE, meal ready to eat, you can buy them like Amazon. And when you crack those bad boys open and you eat something out of it, don't throw any of that stuff away. It lasts like a long time. Put it in a box, and we call it the rat box, and put it in the box and just leave it all in there so the family members can rummage around and like, oh, I like this. So don't throw anything away that's in the MRE box. Keep all that food, all those little especially if you've ever been hungry, like when we get in the Army sometimes, and all of a sudden you're like eating every little tiny thing, man. You're practically eating the match heads, But if we get down to that and the internet's still on, I'll come on and I'll teach people how to control hunger and that sort of things. Tommy is saying on the Berkey water filter system, I want one of those. I haven't bought one. If anybody has an extra, send it to me. I haven't bought one yet, but I want one of those. Yeah, but that's extra. I'll be using my Katadyn if I need. But actually, I'd like a Berkey because they're pour over and they're quite good, and they've got really good reviews. Oh yeah, Michelle Witzel saying our government and companies outsource. Yeah, most of our masks are being made like in China, right? They're being made in China because our government has set up through the years, created conditions that many of our huge manufacturers like Apple have gone over to China. And think about Apple. Apple always puts up this big fight about whether or not the FBI can get into their stuff, right? Like when some terrorist or whatever does something, and Apple puts up this fight like, no, you have to take us to court. Does anybody really think that China is selling Apple products in China, like these iPhones and stuff that the Chinese government can't get into? That doesn't make sense. China will not let you sell secure communications gear in China. That is ridiculous to even think that for a second. That's not how they roll. So the idea that China is the only one with a back door to Apple products, it just doesn't stand up. It doesn't pass the sniff test. what does pass the sniff test is that Apple is probably working very closely with FBI and CIA and NSA and all that, or in some other way, these organizations have gotten in there in some way, and they put up this perfunctory fight every time. But I don't believe for 1 second, because remember, it would be both in the government's best interest and Apple's best interest to put up a public fight. Like, we can't get into those Apple products. Well, yeah, because then if you're the NSA or the FBI or whatever, you're going to want to be like, nope, we can't break into iPhones. All the enemies should get iPhones. And so the enemy will get, oh, they can't, this is encrypted. This is, and then Apple's like, yep, our stuff's very secure. And, I mean, everybody's got a best interest in carrying on that charade, right? And why would China let Apple sell iPhones and all that in China? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't pass the sniff test. Yeah, Tammy's saying about National Guard on MREs. I was thinking the same thing, actually. People going to their local National Guard for MREs if you get hungry. I would do the same thing, actually. I mean, I wouldn't need to, but that would, if I were in a super dire strait, the first thing I would do would be like go to church groups. But I'm not going to get in that situation unless something super ultra bad happens. But church groups are always squared away, and I would also, I would go to the government as a last resort, man. I would be like going to Christian groups. I would be going to Sikhs. I would be going to Buddhists. And then finally, as a final last resort, I would go to the government. Let's see. But people need to, let's see. Deb's saying, people just need to wash their hands and make sure. But I'm telling you, make sure that you have prepared. And that means stocking up on food and that sort of thing. We've said over and over and over. Bernie Mac is saying our school district in Western North Carolina has had virtual days for kids in school from elementary to high school for several years. We have virtual days when we have bad snow. You're in Western North Carolina, man. I'm not worried about Western North Carolina. That's like the last place on earth I'm worried about, because I lived up there, man. I lived in Andrews, right? I know that there's so many preppers up there. There's like y'all probably got like a whole giant bunkers and stuff of food and ammo and everything. And you got those clear mountain streams running from the mountains, and I mean, you've got the people in that area, the old Scott Irish stock, that sort of thing. I know every time there's like snow days up there, all the guys are out there with their chainsaws and trucks. I'm not even worried about you guys. That's like the last place on in the United States I would worry about would be people like in Western North Carolina. I mean, when it comes to starving to death, y'all got bears up there you can hunt. Y'all got rifles and there's deer all over those mountains. I mean, y'all know how to hunt, and I'm not even worried about y'all. The only thing I'd go up to Western North Carolina and maybe ask y'all to teach me new survival techniques or whatever. Like one guy, he used to work for me out there. He talked about like he got lost out in the woods one time. He was out with his hunting dogs and he was out and he got lost. Or did he get lost? He got stuck up on the mountain somehow. It was cold, hunting season's usually kind of a cold season, right? And all the leaves are off the trees and all that. And he's like, it was cold. So he went down and he didn't have a sleeping bag with him and all that, but he had all his dogs. So he pulled all the dogs up next to him and he pulled a bunch of leaves over himself. And he said he was just warm as a tick, man. He was like sleeping with his dogs under the leaves. And he was perfectly warm and happy. He said he slept all night and never slept better. So, I mean, all the people up in those mountains, they know how to do stuff, man. I'm not even worried about y'all. You guys should be out. You're the ones that make a lot of prepping videos that I watch. Do I think D.D. Fowler's asking, do I think gas prices will go up? I don't know. You know, why would that be a tough question? That would be a tough question because when people are driving less, not going to work, that sort of thing, the demand would decrease. So I'm not sure how this will play out in the wash. I don't know. I mean, how's it going to play out between getting the gas there and having the gas station open and will we get down to that? Or, well, I mean, I'm all but certain that we're going to get down to a lot of people not going to work and not going on long road trips. A lot of people are probably going to be canceling those. So demand, I'm going to guess, will go down. But will supply go down? I don't know. Michelle Witzel, Seoul is handing out masks weekly to its citizens, and volunteers are seeing reusable masks as well. Where's our American can-do spirit? I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. Our government, as per normal, has failed us yet again while putting a happy face on it. My childhood friend Ward Smith is saying, infectious disease expert Amish A. Adagja, MD, senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, tells Health that the N95 is still the recommended face mask for health professionals because it has the capacity to filter out very small particles that could possibly contain the virus. This is different than the surgical mask, which can only stop larger droplets, says Dr. Adagja. Wow, whatever. Thank you, doctor. See, the doctor's sitting there saying it. Let's see. Please post a link to that, Herr Ward, Mr. Ward. Yeah, China is always lying, Tammy. That's what China does. Oh, thanks. And then Ward actually did post a link because that's what Ward does. Thank you, Ward. I grew up with Ward. We were like 9 and 10 years old together, playing in there with our chemistry sets, and we're really lucky we didn't die from all the things that we were doing. Hello from Ukraine. Do you think Devin Croft is saying, do you think that China dumped this out there, people after uprising? No. Because of the uprising in Hong Kong? No. I hear people saying that all the time, but it doesn't make sense in context. Remember, I was in the Hong Kong fighting since June until they kicked me out on February 5th, right? Actually, when I returned to Hong Kong, they denied my entry. So I'd been there for 6 months in the fighting, and I'm quite apprised of that situation, and it does not make any sense at all in context that China would do this to stop that. It makes zero sense. I'm not saying that China didn't dump it out there. I have no idea. I have no idea if China dumped it out there or not. Sorry, I keep looking at comments instead of looking at the camera. My apologies. Let me look at this comment here. George Capra. I live very remotely in the mountains in North Carolina. We are both 76. We are a practical prepper. Our property is tens of acres. Excellent. Under normal circumstances, I leave the property every 2 weeks or so. My wife, a nurse, does the same. We are using the pandemic to test our prepper skills status. We have self-quarantine. We didn't have to do anything to do this. We already had everything we needed for an EMP services flipping over to a pandemic. We will see what we will see. Yeah, you should. Hey, George Copra out in Western North Carolina, you know what you should, and if you're not already doing it, it'd be really cool if you started doing like a YouTube channel or putting on Facebook saying what you're doing up there. Because I've learned a lot of my prepping skills from people like from Western North Carolina, and some when I was a Green Beret and that sort of thing. But a lot of it's just been learned from people like you who just do it. And because, as you know, prepping is a moving target. I mean, it changes over time depending on what like I got a Catadyne water filter. Catadyne water filter wasn't available like 30 years ago. You know what I mean? It's only been available since, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the circumstances change over time. And so what we can do to prepare changes over time. And so we need to constantly update our ideas and compare information with each other. Because as you know, there's always somebody that thought of a better way and thought of something that never crossed our mind. But I'm sure you and your wife will be fine out there because you only have to leave every 2 weeks anyway. But at this point, you don't even have to do that. Flack Pappy says, strife is about to happen at my household. Father-in-law flew out a couple of days ago, returning tomorrow. The trip was not necessary. He is facing quarantine when he gets home because I'm fully aware of how well he washes his hands, etc. Yeah, I'm wondering about that too. Internally within families, because probably every family's got one that's not taking it seriously. I'm going to take a guess on that, and that's something that preppers talk about too, by the way. And they've talked about that for years. There's be somebody in your neighborhood doesn't take it seriously. There'll be somebody in your organization doesn't take it seriously. That's why we kill so many Taliban and Al Qaeda and other terrorists, because there'll be one of them that doesn't take electronic security seriously, and then we kill them all. Like, well, there can be like 20 people or whatever, and they all are very secure with their communications, like they never have phones with them and that sort of thing. And then one idiot in their group brings a phone to their hideout, and then we kill them. I mean, seriously, one of the last kills I saw in Afghanistan was a complete electronic hit where we did a hit on somebody's phone, and usually there was more than one way to back it up, but it was a Hellfire missile strike, and it was in Arghandab in Kandahar province. And it was just a Hellfire missile strike, I think, from a not a Predator, but whatever. Anyway, it was a drone. If I had to look at my notes, but it was just a strike on a phone. But it's the same thing with this virus. The same kind of rules apply. The same mental processes and the same the way that things spread. All those things like metadata, the way that spreads, the way that all these things spread, it's all quite very similar. Let's see. Cecilia Thompson. People in British Columbia, Canada are going very nuts over toilet paper and Brita water filters. My friend was at Costco and says she compared it to the Tickle Me Elmo craze. She says, thanks for the pre-warning. You're welcome. Deb is talking about use bleach and water in a 10% ratio to sanitize your homes, and that will help. Okay, careful on your bleach ratio when it comes to how much you use on like Clorox, for instance, for drinking versus cleaning. So be very careful on that. And also remember, like Clorox actually has a real shelf life, by the way. It's not like you might think Clorox will never go bad, but it actually will. It doesn't really go bad. It turns into salt water. So keep in mind that things like Clorox, like when you buy it, take a pen and write on there, and and so that you remember. There might be a date on there, but circle it if there is, but so that you know, because the Clorox will actually go out of date, and it will actually really go out of date. Some things really do expire. So if you're going to use, I hate using something like Clorox it doesn't purify water, by the way. It just, it kills bacteria and that sort of thing. But it'll still have particulates and that sort of thing in it. Yeah. Let's see. All right. Carol John says, you are annoying. Then here, I suggest this. Check out. Bye. See how that works? So easy. And the amount of energy you took to say, I am annoying, you could have just walked out the door and let it hit you. See how that is? Was that annoying? Right. Okay. Mike Smith says, so far, the only deaths have been with older people with underlying health conditions. Untrue. Completely untrue. I suggest you research. That's completely untrue. Yeah, but I do agree that the number of cases is about to go up. The known cases is about to go up, and the cases are going to clearly go up. You don't have to be an infectious disease expert to know that any more than you have to be a military expert or a West Point graduate to go to Afghanistan and to say what's going on with that war. Tom Flan says, don't let them shit you. This is revenge for the Hong Kong protest and attempts to destroy the world economy. Get that tinfoil off your head. Yeah, SB, Dr. Stephen Hatfield, he wrote the book 3 Seconds to Midnight. It's a great book. I read it twice and I studied it some more. I suggest you read it. All right. Sorry, my cat. All right. Let's see. There are so many questions that I should probably. Let's see if there's any last. There, I can't answer them all, but I've tried to. Let's see. What is Karen saying? I haven't even read it. I'm just clicking it and then I'm reading it. So it's a totally uncensored. Most of the leftists, Karen is saying, leftist loonies actually believe that they have such low self-esteem that they're willing to live in cities where they have to walk through human poop. Are you talking about San Francisco? Let's see. But that's okay as long as the Democrats are in office in the city. Who cares if you get, yeah, yeah. Let's see how well San Francisco does with this. I went to school in San Francisco, by the way. It was nice when I went there. All right. But not now. Last time I went there, it was getting dirtier. And that was quite a while ago, though. But okay. Needy says, don't Mormons always keep 7 years of food? I don't know, but that would be a good idea. That way your family can have it. And actually, it's not that expensive if you do your own canning and that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for coming on. Thank you for the support, financial support. I know some people are worried now about their own financial situation. Let's see what Dorota is saying in Poland. What do you think about that? There are cases when people got the virus twice. I don't know. We would have to listen to the experts on that. I mean, obviously, that's a concern that some people can get it twice. I don't know. We have to wait until the science comes in. I'm not an infectious disease expert, but I am listening to them every day, constantly. All right. Okay, Frank Guerra in Bangkok. My son's wedding to his Thai sweetheart went ahead with success. Good. Now home back to Australia in a week early from Bangkok. As noticed, locals mostly wearing masks. Not many tourists doing so. It's a major concern. Yep. Hopefully you're good to go. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and thank you everybody for supporting my work. Thank you, Iris. Please do hit my Patreon if you can. And I really appreciate all support. PayPal, Patreon, Venmo, Mitsubishi Bank with my Japanese bank account, Bank of America, my P.O. box, all sorts of. Patreon is extremely helpful. And Barbara Spalding, let's see. And let's go ahead and shut off for now. And I'll be back on tomorrow as I continue to study the latest. And let me find the button to make this stop here. All right, everybody have a good night. Make sure to prepare. Make sure to get plenty of food. Make sure to get plenty of sleep. Make sure to get plenty of sunlight. Mic out. And in broadcast. I have to